All right, hello and welcome. My name is Caitlin Hughes. I'm the Executive Director with Solar Cookers International, and we are so excited that you are joining us today for the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women event, empowering women and girls through solar cooking. We have an exciting slate of speakers today, which we can't wait to share with you. But first, a few housekeeping details. So this event is being recorded, and that helps us share it with people all around the world, whether they're in the time zone that works to watch it live or not. It's also a great way to share information about solar cooking. So we do encourage you to share it with anyone who you think might be interested so they can hear more about solar cooking and the important role that it can play. There is the opportunity for questions and answers as time allows at the end of this session. There is a Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. It has two little dialog boxes. You can click on it. You can type your question in there. We'll try and address it in writing if we get a chance. And then if we have time at the end of the session for any further discussion and questions, we'll look to those as well. And I'd like to turn it over to Sarah Rosen, who is our Program and Operations Manager, to share a little bit more about how we're working to make this accessible.
Great, thank you, Caitlin. We do have some captions available. If you'd like to turn captions on for easier access, you can click the captions button at the bottom of your screen. If you do not see a button called Show Captions, you can select More and then Captions for the same functions. You'll be able to turn captions on, off, and adjust settings. The captions are limited to English for the moment, but we will upload this to YouTube, which has some more options there. One thing to note is that the captions are automatically generated, so they might not be perfect. We hope to improve it in the future. Thank you.
All right, so on to the exciting slate of speakers that we're going to be sharing with you. And thanks, Rosen, for sharing how to make this most accessible. So today you will get to hear from Miss Climate Kenya, all the way from Kenya, Dorcas Naishuro. You'll also get to hear from Miriam Amudu Sidi, who's from the Central African Republic, and she is the Gender and Climate Change Focal Point. We'll also get to hear from Rosemary Atino, who's from Kenya, and the founder and CEO of Community Mobilization for Positive Empowerment. We'll get to hear from Grace Strong, who's the Executive Director of Root of Generations from South Sudan, and who actually lived in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, so providing that very personal experience. As well, you'll get to hear from some more amazing members of the Solar Cookers International team, including Justin Tabachnik, our research specialist, and Keith Wingard, our strategic partnerships manager. And very exciting news, for the first time ever, we will be premiering a video that was specially made in collaboration with Tea Leaves about Solar Cookers International's work in Kakuma Refugee Camp, Kenya. So those of you joining us live will get to see this for the very first time. And again, great opportunity to share with people who you think might be interested in learning more. So with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Dorcas Naishuro, who I had the very pleasure of meeting at the United Nations Climate Conference in Dubai. And she is just such a light of passion and knowledge and such a poignant speaker on behalf of women and girls all around the world. I really felt so honored to meet her, and I'm so honored to share her voice with you today.
Greetings, my name is Dorcas Naishuro Umaka, and I'm Miss Climate Kenya, and also the first Miss Climate in the world. The aspect of climate change has become a deep concern in communities like mine. I am a Maasai girl from a local place in Kenya called Kajiado County or Lost Recon Ward. For a very long time, the indigenous people have had the ability to coexist with nature. But due to climate change, most of their lives and livelihoods have been lost because of climate change. I'm going to speak more on the urgent need to climate action. We encounter lots and lots of risks when climate change comes. I'm saying this because when there is climate change, just an example, as the one that we previously had here in Kenya, we had so many girls who are seen off for marriage at an early stage because of the diverse effect of climate change, just for the sustainability and for the survival of the entire family. young girls are forced to be given out in hand of marriage for some grass for the livestock, just to make sure that the survival of the other family members is not compromised. In the same aspect, I am deeply concerned on the urgent need to creating alternative cooking solutions to them. The indigenous people greatly depend on firewood as a source of fuel, and this was something that was not much of a big deal to them many years ago until climate change came. The scarcity of fuel for these families also pose young children and women who go out fetching the firewood and water a great risk. As climate change continues to persist, then it greatly puts at risk the livelihoods of women and girls who have to go for long distances in search of water and food for their families. This poses a risk not only to their health but also to their safety. Because of climate change, we find that one is forced to go to long distances, which really affects their health. You can find that during this search of firewood, search of food and water, then this person gets to encounter cases like rape out in the bush. The degradation of natural resources brings about food insecurity and deficiencies for indigenous people who truly depend on nature for their survival. Reliance to traditional ways of cooking brings about indoor air pollution, which causes respiratory diseases to women and girls who mostly spend their time inside their houses. There is indeed a need to integrate indigenous knowledge to climate adaptation strategies. Recognizing the interconnection between women, climate change, and cooking solutions, then we can not only address issues on environmental degradation, but also get to understand the sustainable cooking practices that can improve the livelihoods of women, safeguard the interests and the livelihoods and the lives of young girls for a better tomorrow. Addressing these challenges require a holistic approach in empowering these indigenous women in getting to access clean cooking technologies, to also help them be sustainable and to prevent and protect their health, to improve their families from poverty, and also help them with their safety.
Thank you so much to Ms. Climate Kenya. And I actually see that she has joined us live today, which is fantastic. So again, if you have any questions, especially for her, please do put them in the Q&A section. And then if we have time at the end of the session, then we'll also have a chance for discussion as time allows. So again, thank you so much to Ms. Climate Kenya for sharing your voice and for just so powerfully summarizing the intersection of women and environmental issues. Thank you for being a voice and sharing your voice with us today. So I wanted to add a little bit explaining about what a solar cooker is. Some people in our audience probably have a lot of experience with solar cooking. Some people, this might be their first time hearing about it. So solar cookers collect and absorb light, they retain heat, they're easy and efficient and safe and sustainable. And there's a variety of different types. These can include everything from reflective panel cookers, box ovens, parabolic reflectors, and we encourage solar cooking in general. Different types of solar cookers work best in different circumstances, and there's a variety of factors to consider in terms of portability, durability, cost. And so that's part of what Solar Cookers International does, is sharing information on the variety of types so that people can make the decisions that are best for themselves. And as a bonus, you'll get to hear about our testing program from our research specialist later on in this program. But solar cookers are devices that can, like I said, absorb and retain heat, and they can be used to cook food or pasteurize water. And this is utilizing solar thermal technology. And there's hundreds of different variations. There's also Fresnel lenses, Fresnel mirrors, evacuated tubes, as well as institutional solar cooking. So for example, rooftop steam systems that can cook for thousands of people at a given time. And we are very happy to showcase all of those examples. Solar cooking has so many benefits. As was mentioned, and you'll get to hear more about, there's no cost for fuel, there's no air pollution, there's no greenhouse gas emissions, there's no negative health impacts from smoke or costs from gathering fuel. They can be used for drying food, pasteurizing water, and also it protects women's safety, both in terms of their health as well as reducing risks from having to go out and gather fuel. It's also supporting the resilience of communities to withstand natural disasters and any conflicts. There's no infrastructure required, and it's really the people solution. It's very accessible. So, who is Solar Cookers International? We are a nonprofit that's been leading the solar cooking sector since 1987, so decades of experience, and we are honored and privileged to work with hundreds of collaborators all around the world. And so we work to improve human health, economic well-being, women's empowerment, especially important for this event, and the environment by promoting climate-friendly solar cooking technology for vulnerable populations worldwide. And we do this through three main ways: capacity building, advocacy, and research, which you'll get to hear more about. So I'd like to turn it over to SCI's Strategic Partnerships Manager, Keith Wingard, to share more about our work in advocacy.
Hello, thanks, Caitlin. Great to be here today, and happy to share a little bit more about SCI, Solar Cookers International's advocacy work that we do to help advocate for the use of solar cooking and advance knowledge about solar cooking opportunities around the world. We've already heard from Miss Climate Kenya, and that's just one example of Solar Cookers International's way of advocating for solar cooking. We'd like to find people that are interested in this solution and help to share the platform at events like this one or at other international events. So we can go on to the next slide. Solar cooking supports all 17 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These are the goals that the world has agreed to try to achieve by 2030, and includes a number of different aspects. However, all of them are positively impacted when people use freely available solar energy to help cook a portion of their meals using solar cooking technology. So at Solar Cookers International, we advocate for the expansion of this kind of technology in a number of ways. One of them is at virtual events like this. Every March for the past few years, we've done a virtual event in parallel to the Commission on the Status of Women, which is ongoing in New York. We also host a similar virtual event in July every year during the High Level Political Forum, which is a time when countries come to New York to report on progress that's been made in addressing the Sustainable Development Goals. And then another event that we attend and use as an opportunity for advocating for solar cooking to government officials, other international organizations, other civil society organizations is at the United Nations Climate Change Convention or Conference, which is referred to as COP. So in December of 2023, SCI sent a team of staff to the COP event in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, and used that as an opportunity to talk to other practitioners, other individuals interested in clean cooking and specifically solar cooking, or for those that aren't familiar with solar cooking, to talk about why solar cooking might be an appropriate solution for their specific country. So you can go ahead to the next slide. Out of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 3 of them are particularly relevant to solar cooking. Like I mentioned, all 17 Sustainable Development Goals are addressed by solar cooking, but gender equality, SDG 5, looks at achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. Last week was International Women's Day on March 8th. Today's event is a virtual parallel event as part of the NGO forum for the Commission on the Status of Women. So we wanted to highlight that gender component. By allowing women and girls to have access to solar cooking, it reduces the demand on their time to go collect firewood and to spend time tending to cooking fires in their homes. So SDG 5, allowing women to have more free time and more advocacy over how they live their lives, and reducing the strain and demand that comes from cooking meals is one aspect of the SDGs. SDG 7 refers to affordable and clean energy, ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Is a critical aspect of the SDGs, and one that has seen a lot of progress on access to electricity, for example. However, access to clean cooking remains a bit of a challenge, with an estimated 2.3 billion people around the world that still lack access to regular, clean, reliable, sustainable, modern energy. So solar cooking is a great way to improve that sustainable, renewable energy for cooking purposes. And then finally, SDG 13 relates to climate action, taking urgent action to combat climate change, reducing the household emissions from cooking activities, from solar cooking. Although on an individual scale is small, when you do that at a larger scale in an entire community, an entire country, and even an entire region, you can start to make a significant impact on reducing greenhouse gas emissions from cooking activities. So go ahead to the next slide. One of the things that we do at Solar Cookers International is we track the nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, which are the commitments that countries make to address their own greenhouse gas emissions. And so these came out of the UN climate conference process, and the 2015 Paris Agreement stipulated that countries would be announcing their own nationally determined contributions to reduce their own greenhouse gas emissions and help prevent the continued unchecked emissions that lead to climate change. So here's a list of countries around the world that have made some sort of reference to the importance of addressing clean cooking specifically. At Solar Cookers International, we've noticed a promising trend where more countries are talking about the importance of including clean cooking, access to clean cooking, as part of their NDC goals. And a special mention goes out to the Central African Republic, which specifically refers to solar cooking in their NDC document. So having recognized that there is an interest from the Central African Republic in expanding access to solar cooking, SCI used our attendance at COP27 in Egypt to reach out and talk about how we might be able to work with the representatives in the Central African Republic to allow for access to solar cooking there, which is part of how we have the video that we'll be sharing with you shortly from the representatives in the Central African Republic. So this kind of work, where we identify opportunities and then talk to government officials or nonprofit sector representatives about how we might be able to work together to improve access to solar cooking. That's what the end result of our advocacy effort can look like. And the whole point of this advocacy effort is to make people aware of the clean cooking challenges and to start to address that 2.3 billion number that I mentioned earlier. So you can go ahead to the next slide. I also wanted to mention that the Solar Cookers International, SCI, is a network member of the United Nations Climate Technology Center and Network, or the CTCN. And so this is another example of how we collaborate with international organizations here at COP27 in Egypt to talk about how solar cooking can be a technology that is appropriate and relevant for people in countries around the world. This is in particular relevant to our colleagues in the Central African Republic as well. So I wanted to just mention that quickly. And if you go to the next slide, I believe I can introduce Madam Mariam Amadou Sidi. She's not able to join us live today, but she has sent in a pre-recorded video message about the importance of access to clean cooking and the cooking situation facing the majority of the population in the Central African Republic. Again, Madam Mariam Amadou Sidi is the gender and climate change focal point for the Central African Republic Civil Service. And so she has a short video that we're happy to share with you today to talk about her perspective and the Central African Republic perspective on why solar cooking in particular is critical to addressing access to clean cooking in her country.
La République centrafricaine a sollicité un appui technique auprès du Centre et Réseau des technologies climatiques, en abrégé CTCN, pour une initiative qui permet l'accès aux technologies de cuisson propre, qui se traduira par l'atténuation des émissions de gaz à effet de serre causées par les méthodes de cuisson traditionnelles. En outre, le soutien du CTCN favorisera l'adaptation au changement climatique en renforçant la résilience de la population de la République centrafricaine grâce à l'amélioration de la santé et du bien-être de ses citoyens. Pour mener à bien cette initiative, la République centrafricaine sera soutenue techniquement par l'organisation Solar Cooker International. Suivez les explications de Madame Amoudou Sidi Mariam, point focal, genre et changement climatique de la République centrafricaine.
La République centrafricaine est un pays moins avancé qui a signé tous les accords multilatéraux en ce qui concerne la préservation de ses ressources et dans le domaine du changement climatique et du développement durable avec un vaste couvert forestier. Dans le domaine de l'énergie, les prélèvements des bois pour les besoins en énergie domestique représentent 98% de la production consommée sous forme de fagots et de charbon. Le travail de collecte est assuré par les femmes, tandis que les hommes sont fortement impliqués dans la coupe, le transport et la fabrication de charbon. Dans le domaine des cuissons utilisées par les ménages, plusieurs études ont prouvé que le bois est la principale source d'énergie utilisée pour la cuisson des aliments dans les ménages. Et le coût de ces énergies de cuisson alternatives, comme le gaz, le pétrole, demeure excessivement hors de portée. C'est-à-dire que ça coûte trop cher par rapport aux revenus de la majorité des ménages centrafricains. L'utilisation des foyers améliorés qui est devenue à la mode grâce aux sensibilisations par les organisations nationales et le gouvernement centrafricain est à court terme une solution envisageable pour réduire la consommation de bois et énergie des ménages. Or, ce mode de cuisson est peu utilisé car les modèles disponibles ne répondent pas aux attentes des femmes centrafricaines. D'autres préfèrent comme moyen les anciens foyers à dispositif de 3 pierres et elles pensent que ça cuit rapidement et facilement, selon elles. Il y a aussi les résidus des bois que les ménages récupèrent après transformation auprès des artisans appelés vulgairement copeaux. La promotion des énergies alternatives au bois est indispensable pour des raisons de santé car l'utilisation du bois et du charbon comme source d'énergie engendre une pollution domestique et des problèmes de santé, surtout pendant la saison sèche. Le soir, vous voyez, il y a une fumée noire qui se dégage et ça pique les yeux. Ça joue sur la santé de la vie. Cependant, nous notons aussi comme conséquence d'utilisation de bois et du charbon, le prélèvement de bois comme source d'énergie qui se fait en grande quantité et ça provoque la déforestation dans la périphérie de Bangui, les axes de Boali et Bangui-Damara, d'où provient la majorité de ces bois. Il y a aussi le prix du bois qui est toujours en constante augmentation parce que le carburant a augmenté ses tarifs et ça joue sur les transporteurs. Et ces sources engendrent la pollution, comme je l'ai dit tantôt, la pollution atmosphérique, et ça joue sur la santé. Si la RCA veut aujourd'hui diversifier sa source d'énergie en utilisant les fours solaires, je pense que l'idée est la bienvenue car cela va baisser les dépenses, surtout que le soleil est un don de la nature. Il est gratuit. Il suffit juste d'avoir son four solaire équipé durable, comme bienfait, il y aura moins de pression sur la forêt et sur la santé et moins de dépenses pour les ménages.
Thank you to Madame Mariam Amadou Sidi from the Central African Republic. As you heard her mention, solar cooking addresses health by decreasing the exposure to smoke, which affects eyesight and lungs in particular, but other functions as well. It also impacts economics in that it reduces the household fuel costs, and it's also an environmental issue, as she mentioned. In the Central African Republic, people are relying on wood to cook their food. The data that we've seen from the World Bank suggests around 98% of the population is relying on wood or other biomass for their primary source of cooking. So this is an important environmental issue for the Central African Republic, and that's why they've identified solar cooking as a critical technology to try to expand access to in their country. Great, so we'll move on. We thank again Madam Mariam, and we'll move on now to our next section. It's my pleasure to introduce Solar Cookers International Research Specialist Justin Tabachnik, and so I will pass it over to Justin. There, okay.
Okay, thank you, Keith. You've got the got my last name correct. It's a pleasure to present in this forum. Next slide. Okay, so why is there a need to test solar cookers? Well, as we heard, there's a plethora of solar cookers. There's box oven, parabolic, reflector, evacuate tube, and reflective panel, and Fresnel cookers. Solar cooker manufacturers can make exorbitant product claims such as ours is the most powerful, ours is the best. So how can we best make informed decisions as to which cooker is more apropos to our application? We need, first of all, a single comparative performance. Oh, go back. Okay, thank you. So we need, first of all, a single comparative performance standard that is unbiased, scientific, and repeatable. We're currently using a standard from the American Society of Agricultural Engineers, or ASAES 580.1. The standard is based on the standard power with units in watts. We can then test to the standard. Testing allows us to quantify standard power and ultimately use it to, as a comparative metric. Sorry. The data can also be used as a performance predictor under different environmental conditions. Next slide. So SEI is the industry leader in solar cooker testing. Sorry. The SEI solar cooker testing started in 2016. We adhere to the ASAES 580.1 protocol. All test hardware and software were developed by SEI in-house. Manufacturers can enlist SEI for a fee to test their solar cookers. Test results are published with the manufacturer's permission on the SEI website. There are 3 active test sites, 2 in the US, New York and California, and 1 in Nairobi, Kenya. Next slide. So SEI has authored 2 papers that were published in the ICES Solar World Congress, International Solar Energy Society. A paper published in 2021 concerned our performance evaluation process, which is our testing procedure, which is based on the ASC standard, and uses the standard power as a metric. The second paper was published more recently in 2024, and it dealt with the solar cooker efficiency, deriving cooking efficiency as an additional metric to standard power. Next slide. So depicted here is our test station. So on the left is the rear view of the test station. In the upper left is the pyranometer, which measures irradiance. Upper right is the anemometer, which measures wind speed. And then we have 3 thermocouples coming out of a distribution box on the bottom. The thermocouples measure temperature. On the right is the inside of our test station. We have an LCD display, a GPS, which records position, longitude, latitude, and elevation. Then we have the brains of the tester, the Adreno Mega, which is a microcontroller. Below that, we have an SD card, which records the information. And then we have 3 thermocouple controllers for the thermocouples. The inset on the right displays measurements in real time. So we have the 3 thermocouple measurements at temp 1, temp 2, and temp 3. Then on the lower left, we have the wind measurement, and lower right, we have the irradiance measurement. Next slide. So this is a typical test setup. We're testing 2 solar cookers. We have a panel cooker on the left, an evacuated tube on the right with our tester in the center, with thermocouples going out from the test, connecting the tester to loads in both solar cookers. Then the thermocouples are measuring temperature inside the pots, which have water in the cookers. This is the message that these slides aren't advancing. They're stuck. Okay, well, I'll continue. So test flow is as follows. Beginning of the test, raw data is recorded in columnar form and space delimited text file. The various test variables, temperature, irradiance, and wind speed. Then the data, the raw data, is imported into our post-processing software and analyzed, which is the panel on to the right. Then the results are summarized in a report, and then the report is posted on the SEI website with the manufacturer's permission. Next slide. So here are 4 graphs that are included in the report of the raw data. We have temperature, irradiance, wind speed. The temperature graph is, the orange is the ambient temperature, and the blue is the low temperature, and you can see it slowly increasing. To the right is a graph of the performance of the tester. The right side slide depicts a linear regression based on the calculated standard power over 10-minute intervals for the test duration. The lower axis is the load, load minus the ambient temperature difference, and the vertical axis is the standard power in watts. This is according to the ASA spec. Standardized power is when the temperature delta is at 50 degrees. So shown here in the graph, we have an arrow, vertical arrow at 50 degrees, and that represents the delta between the low temperature and the ambient temperature. And it intersects the linear regression curve, and the horizontal arrow points to the standard power, which in this case is 30 watts. So next slide. This graph is from the cooking efficiency and energy loss from the ISIS 2024 paper. It's showing the efficiency and loss. The orange is the loss. The blue is the efficiency over 4 anonymous solar cookers. We have borosilicate glass, which is the same thing as the evacuated tube. We have the panel cooker, parabolic cooker, and the box cooker. And as an example, let's say the borosilicate glass cooker on the extreme left. The efficiency is 0.35. The loss is 0.65. In contrast, the one on the extreme right, the box cooker, we have an efficiency of 0.18 versus 0.82 loss. So efficiency is defined as the output energy divided by the input energy. The output energy is proportional to the low temperature change, and the input energy is the sun irradiance into the cooker. So loss is 1 minus efficiency. So the heat loss is due to various things: convection, conduction, radiation, and reflected radiation. Next slide. So these are the various solar cookers or classes that we've tested so far. To the left, we have 4 examples of reflective panel cookers. To the right, we have 4 examples of evacuated tube cookers. Next slide. Well, here is the examples of box cookers that we've tested. You can see in the background and foreground our tester in the different slides. And finally, the last slide. This is a box cooker that we're testing that I was testing in the field. That's me, and that's my shadow there. To the left is my assistant, Sam. I think that's about it. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate taking us through some of the research aspects of Solar Cookers International's work on looking at testing and the value and importance of testing and some of the technical aspects of coming up with those efficiency numbers, which help us to continue advancing knowledge of solar cooking technology, and something that we share on our website as well, the reports once we've completed those research components. So thank you again to SCI's research specialist, Justin Tabachnik. And I will also now have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker. The next speaker is someone I had the pleasure of meeting in person in Nairobi, Kenya last year during the 2023 Africa Climate Week. And we, Solar Cookers International, had the opportunity to have a small stand with a cook-it on display, one of the reflective panel cookers. And as Rosemary was walking through the hall, she saw the cook-it that we had on display, and she said, I know what that is. I have one of those. And she came over and talked to me a little bit about her own experience as a solar cook in Kenya. And so we're honored and happy to share, to bring Rosemary here today to talk a little bit about her work with her organization, the Community Mobilization for Positive Empowerment, or COMPE. Rosemary is the founder and CEO of this organization, which is based in Kisumu, Kenya. So I will ask Rosemary to please turn on your video, turn on your microphone, and come on and take the stage. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kate. I'm pleased and honored to be here today as a speaker on the importance of solar cooking and why it is important for our grassroots women. I am the founder and CEO of COMPE Kenya, and this is a local organization that works in Kenya, the rural communities, to try and promote a number of things to promote profitable microenterprises for women and communities. I am also one of the founders and project coordinator for Women Climate Centers International, an organization that is based in East Africa and works with grassroots women to promote climate smart technologies. And I believe solar cooking is one of the smart technologies. In my work, I was introduced to solar cooking in the Ministry of Agriculture. I worked for the Ministry of Agriculture for over 25 years. And I came across solar cooking and other types of cooking, alternative energy sources. I also came across one called Mama Solar. In Kenya, we call her Mama Solar. She introduced us also to solar cooking while we were training in Uganda. And since then, it has become part of us as a COMPE and as a BCCI to promote alternative energy saving solutions for our women. So why are we so much interested in promoting solar cooking in our women? Is because we really want to promote sustainable, positive and innovative ways of living for our women as we develop micro enterprises for them and help them to meet the day-to-day challenges of life, especially climate change. So to me, solar cooking is very appropriate in Kenya because as we all know that women are the great burden bearers of all the impacts of climate change. So they wake up early in the morning to look for firewood, wake up early in the morning to look for water, walking long distances. They're taking care of the children and all that. So it is important and prudent that we introduce to them appropriate energy saving devices or appropriate ways of cooking so that they're able to keep healthy and they're also able to have time for them to be able to attend important meetings in development. So every morning you realize women are interacting with the environment almost 90% of their time because they have to look for firewood, they have to look for food, they have to look for water. So there's a heavy workload on the women. So the more we introduce to them appropriate technologies, I think we will be doing them some great good. And as you realize in Africa, most of us cook using firewood. So it means we are deforesting the soil, the forests and cutting down trees. So we have to look for an alternative way of doing these things. So we have been training our women on solar cooking and basically using two very common solar cookers, that is the reflective panel and the box solar cooker, so that we are able to tap into the sunlight, which is free of charge. It is not bought, it is cheap and it is clean. So once we introduce them to cooking with the solar, then they are able to learn how to cook the various foods. And as they cook, they'll be saving some time because once you put your food in the solar panel and you put it in the box, then you're able to do your other businesses. And in the process, you're going to be saving time that you can use to do other productive work. So solar cooking to me is also an important aspect of climate change because it helps us reduce on the cutting down of trees because we will use less firewood. Of course, when you complement it with other kinds of energy, for example, the fireless cookers or energy saving jikos, then we are going to reduce on the cutting down of forests. We are going to reduce on the fumes that women inhale when they're using firewood for their respiratory tract, to reduce respiratory tract infections. And we will be taking care of the environment. So we'll be actually responding to climate issues through reduction of cutting off of trees and introducing other forms of cooking. Solar cooking to us has been a good point for us to help our women reduce on afforestation, on cutting down of trees, because once they learn about it and they are able to complement each other and they are able to learn about it, because we do peer-to-peer learning. We train them on how to make simple, like the reflective panel is very easy to make, so they're able to make some for themselves. The box cooker is not very cheap, but not very expensive and can be done. So this is helping us, as you can see from our slides, our women are learning how to cook with the solar panels. And in the long run, our women are actually thriving in the face of climate change. So why is clean cooking agenda issue? For me, it is agenda issue because clean cooking can help us ease the health problems that we face in Africa and in Kenya per se, and it reduces economic burdens affecting our women. Then we have the harmful effects of smoke from our fuel wood. We reduce the long distance women walk looking for firewood and helping them to cook in a clean and healthy way. To me, this is also a way of bringing up micro enterprises. So it's a new pathway to economic empowerment for our women. And we are going to help our women to use their time more effectively, because the time they save looking for water, looking for firewood, can be translated into more effective work, because they now have time to even attend the chief's barazas. They're able to attend development meetings. And in their process, they're also able to project their voices to be heard in the fight against climate change, because climate change involves everybody. And the only way we can do it is to involve everyone and leave no one behind. So to me, solar cooking is an appropriate way of doing things. However, it has its own challenges. Some of the challenges that we are facing is how to get the financial muscle for us to be able to help these women fabricate their own solar cookers, how to help these women to develop eco-friendly enterprises to be able to pass it on to the next generation through their peer-to-peer learning cycles. So one of the challenges that is really critical that I think we really need to look into is the financial aspect of it, to finance local action. And this will help our women to develop profit-oriented micro-enterprises. So you see, these are women who have been trained on how to use solar cooker. You can see Rosemary in the background there with some of our trainers in Uganda training our women. And we are happy that we are part of this journey. And we hope that we can put our heads together to be able to promote more solar cooking by helping our women with the local finances that they need so that they're able to fabricate these things. So that final slide is a slide of us in Uganda after learning how to make our solar cookers, and after having our meal from the solar cookers, and we have our fireless cookers that also supplement the cooking. And our women are cooking healthy, cooking clean, and I think it's cheap and most affordable, and it's an innovative way of promoting climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. That was amazing. Very super informative and very impressive. And I just want to say thank you for being here today to talk to us about it. And thank you for all the work that you're doing to support solar cooking and to support women. And it leads us nicely into our next topic, which is capacity building. So SCI cannot be directly involved with every project in the world, so we focus our efforts on strengthening the capacity of the sector as a whole. This means two things, really. It means providing accessible resources, and it means establishing robust project models that can be replicated and scaled up. So starting with resources, one of the best places to begin is with this toolkit, the John Colentine Solar Cooking Toolkit. If you are interested in solar cooking, whether it is as an advocate, a project leader, a maker, or just as an individual interested in cooking, it can be difficult to know where to start. So this toolkit here, it assembles some of the most helpful information, and then it organizes it into different modules targeted for different roles and situations. So for example, you can see here that it includes a collection of business tools, including potential funding sources on entrepreneurship guidance. It includes guidance for building a cooker, for testing a cooker, for networking. We even have a module for teachers that includes classroom materials and lesson plans. SCI also hosts a solar cooking wiki, which is the world's largest online platform for solar cooking resources. This wiki is hosted and managed by SCI, but it really depends on people from around the world sharing their experiences and sharing their expertise. And it is a treasure trove of information. It's got almost 1,800 pages and translations in 37 languages. You can find a great variety of information, including news, events, learning materials, vendors, manufacturers, and open source designs. And one of the most helpful features here is that every country has its own page, so you can really zero in on what's happening in your region, which is helpful. And the knowledge sharing that takes place on the wiki, it really helps make solar cooking accessible. And it also serves as a virtual community and a networking mechanism. And I just want to note here that we are looking at two different websites. So the toolkit can be found on SCI's website at solarcookers.org, and the wiki is separate. It can be found at solarcooking.fandom.com. I encourage you to check both of them out. Another way SCI helps strengthen capacity is simply by building an understanding of the solar cooking landscape. So we gather information about the number of cookers out there in the world, and we have so far identified over 4 million cookers across the globe. This distribution map that you see here helps us understand how extensive the solar cooking community is, and it can help us see which areas are more familiar with solar cooking and which areas might benefit from more awareness raising, which is invaluable information for project leaders. This map can be found on our website alongside a form where you can add your own solar cookers to the map. I strongly encourage you to do that. It is crowdsourced data, and there is really no project too small. So please visit and add your own cookers to the map. And of course, the number of solar cookers can be translated into the number of families affected, the number of meals cooked, the money saved through and the money saved through avoided fuel costs. So SCI has taken this understanding, expanded it, and then applied it to the country level through a tool we call impact summaries. SCI combines our own research with data from the World Health Organization and the World Bank, among others, to generate some important numbers which speak to a country's potential. We focus on the portion of a country's population that is currently relying on solid fuels for cooking, and we imagine what would happen if they switched to solar cooking just a quarter of the time. We use this number, this 1/4 number, in order to be conservative and account for those times when the weather is not conducive to solar cooking and occasions when people might need to cook at night. The idea also being that solar cooking can be integrated into a current cooking system rather than replacing it, and we're still likely to see tremendous savings in avoided fuel and health expenditures. Another way that we can help build capacity across the sector is by creating tools that support the project cycle and setting people up for successful adoption. So the most successful projects are going to be introduced in communities that have a need and a desire for solar cooking. So SCI created a quick needs assessment, which asks cooks about their current cooking habits and why they're interested in solar cooking. This assessment is a critical step, and it should be used to inform decisions about your project. It is also, of course, important not to make assumptions about a project's success and to follow up with program participants. So we've developed this adoption and impact survey, which collects both baseline data and post-distribution data. It explores cooking frequency, fuel consumption, expenditures, and it also just asks cooks whether they'd recommend their cooker to others. So this survey helps us identify what should be replicated and what should be changed in future projects. It's such valuable information. Later on, my colleague Keith will take a deeper dive into one specific initiative in Kakuma refugee camp, where these tools and others are being used with great success. But first, we are going to hear from a woman who has firsthand knowledge of life in Kakuma refugee camp and can speak to the urgency of the situation. I had the great honor of interviewing Grace DeRong Grace is the founder and executive director of Root of Generations, a nonprofit organization based in Juba, South Sudan. She's committed to finding sustainable solutions to challenges faced by women and children in her community. And speaking with her was a remarkable experience. She has an incredible story of hardship and struggle, but one that she now uses as motivation to help others. So I'm so grateful that she gave us her time for an interview, and grateful for all the work she's doing on behalf of her community. So with that, I will play her interview.
You've heard my name is Dorong Grace. I'm from South Sudan. I'm former refugees, and having grown up in Kenya, Kakuma Refugee Settlement, and a founder of Root of Generations, organization that has been inspired by the life that I had in the camp. I'm happy to be here with you today.
Great. Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you here. After fleeing conflict in your home country of South Sudan, you arrived in Kakuma refugee camp in northern Kenya. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience living there?
First of all, I found myself there as a young child, a minor, and as we were there, we were not called by our names, but we were called by the status. Children without parents, children without being accompanied. So we used to be called minors. I usually refer to Kakuma refugee camp as a cage because that is how I saw it. We were living in these fenced, plastic house, dirty smelling toilet places full of people of different sizes, age, different origin, different culture. I felt confused. I felt lost. I felt Kakuma was like being in a sea and you don't know how to swim.
Can you tell us a little bit about the daily life in Kakuma?
Our daily life was this. We were kept in one room, both male and female, and we had some people who were tasked to take care of us and to cook for us. And they come the following day to prepare the porridge. The porridge which you used to take once in a day. And we have to really fight to get that meal. If you miss to get the porridge today, then you have to wait until the following day. And so these people who are tasked with the responsibility to take care of us are the same people who actually mistreated us. They were not like parents or giving us that love, but they were instead brutally mistreating us. And if you're a female, then you'll be used by the male. If you're the male, I don't know what kind of mistreatment they underwent, but that is what I know about myself.
So you spoke a little bit about the difficulty of getting food. Can you describe in general what the cooking situation is for people, for families in Kakuma?
Women and girls, they used to travel to the bush, mostly to go and look for firewood. And you'll hear a lot of cases. You can hear that a woman was raped, a woman was killed, a woman was this. But these are the people who are having pressure from the family, what to do to the children, what to give to the children. The bundle of firewood that has been given is finished. What do you use to cook? Even if you have small flour in the house, you need a source of energy to prepare it. So that is the difficulties that I really remember. In those plastic houses, in those plastic sheets, because of very hot sunshine, people prepare the cooking stoves inside the same house. So you find the plastic sheet is turning black from inside. And sometimes you can see those black things hanging and then falling on you. When you get out in the morning, you feel like stiff, kind of your nose is like you're not breathing. It's like the nose is growing smaller inside, especially when it gets cold, your chest is very heavy. And it's like the chest is growing smaller. It's like the air spaces are being closed. I just realized later on that many people that are really facing the same challenges are the people using this kind of of cooking. Most of my uncles and the rest of the people have chest problem. And when they breathe, sometimes when you cough out, they cough out like black kind of saliva, dirty.
Can you tell us why you think clean cooking is a gender issue?
If I really have to rank, I would say it's a gender issue and affects women more than men, because women spend almost 6 hours in that kind of setting, in the cooking, in looking for firewood, in cooking for the children. And then as they're cooking, they also carry the babies in their bag. They also have other children next to her sitting there waiting for the food. And women also go out to look for firewood. They travel those long distances. The same women are exposed to risk out there, a lot of risk as they're moving. So this is a gender issue.
And do you think that the cooking situation in Kakuma and similar places is getting better or worse?
So due to these climate changes and what is happening, there is a lot of rising water. We have a river there called Tarach River. And so the river increased, rise, and swept away most of the trees that we used to go under, because people used to go under those trees and collect the fallen, dried one. Now these trees are no longer there. They're actually buried in the ocean. So they don't find where to go and look for firewood. And then the local communities, the host communities, are now the one bringing in the firewood to sell to these people. And you find the cost is very high. So those people who have never received any support in terms of solar or whatever, because I managed to ask you who are supported under SCI, and they said, for me, I don't even go and look for firewood. So meaning it's getting worse for others, and it's getting better for those who are able to access your support. So this is the reality.
We have been told by other Kakuma residents that using solar cookers has reduced their need for other fuels like wood and charcoal, as you mentioned, and it saves them about $70 or 10,000 Kenyan shillings a year. In your opinion, what do you think that kind of savings means for someone living in that area?
Oh my God, I think it's just great saving, because in Kakuma, getting 200 Kenyan shilling or about $1 is not an easy task. And so saving that amount, do you know what it means? It means that this person can be able to buy a book, a pen for the child to go to school. This family is able to buy alternative source like green vegetables. They can even afford the fruit at the market. This family can also access other services like good health care services, because the hospitals who have it, they come, are not well equipped. So if you have your own resources, you can be able to go to the better hospitals. So this means a lot.
Why do you think solar cooking is an important solution for refugee families in Kakuma, but also do you think that that same solution translates to where you are now in South Sudan?
Yes, it is the best solution for those living in Kakuma, because we find that Kakuma is very hot and there is enough energy from sunshine.
Unlike the firewood that they have to search for it, risking their lives, and sometimes someone can die during that process. It also helps to reduce the burdens of women. Women take a lot of time in order to prepare the meal for their families. So solar being there for them, very accessible, it reduces a lot of burdens. It gives them, at least out of their day, they have some time free. Also, it helps to solve a lot of gender-based violence issue, because when a man comes in and finds there is no food, he doesn't care whether because you didn't cook because there's no firewood. All he wants is the food. And also because they don't have income that they can use to buy these expensive, as I said, because of these climate issues, the prices of this charcoal, the firewood is really skyrocketing, and they cannot afford to be able to purchase a fruit. I remember I stayed there for more than 7 years when I've never eaten a fruit.
So, yeah, it is only for families who can afford to buy a mango in the street or an orange. It is very helpful also in South Sudan because as I speak, we have a lot of deforestation. The lands that were very green initially, now they're just bare land. So it will help us to save the environment from being cut down. It will also help the families. You know, here in South Sudan, okay, here is dusty. It's very dusty because the rain is not there. It's very hot. And also these dusts coupled with the smoke still cause a lot of health challenges. So I feel that what I underwent in Kakuma, the suffering, the fact that you cannot eat because you cannot afford the source of energy. So this gives me the energy to ensure that people can access clean energy, and cooking doesn't have to be a burden to women.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your organization, Root of Generations? Can you tell us what your organization's mission is and what you work to achieve?
So this is an organization that works to transform the society in a lasting way, in creating solutions by using what we have. So the organization has a passion of transforming the society, transforming the community, transforming the lives of people, especially women and children. So the mission is just to have healthy society, equal society, where women, men, live as counterparts, and where children are embraced, they are loved, and also making sure that the government is focused on people. It's a government for people, by the people. So we're also having the element of advocacy. We're having the element of empowerment. We're having the element of environment, because we see that when you live in a clean environment, and then your mind also become clean, and you become a very successful citizen that can really work in their country. So this is the whole thing about Root of Generation. Just about the world we dream to have or we dream to see. Yeah.
And what is your hope or aspiration for the future?
I can say my future is 5 years from now, because I don't know how long I'm gonna live. But I'm just looking at a future where people live, very green environment, people can eat food, women can move freely and come back easily. The families live together in peace, they're looking at each other, growing up their children. And above all, being healthy in their bodies, embracing alternative sources of energy that is never harmful to their health.
Thank you. I hope to see that future too. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything else you feel it's important to share with the people that are here today, with the solar cooking community or the wider audience?
I think my closing remark is basically to tell the world that we're all looking for the solution to safeguard the environment. Build up on what solar cooking has done, because this is the best so far I've ever seen. Something that can cook food from sunshine. In fact, when I told the story here, people are like, how is that possible? And so my message is just that let's embrace the clean energy that we can use entirely in the world, because this is one way of creating a clean world that we're looking for. If I had the power, I'll make sure that everyone has it in their home, to make sure nobody cuts a tree or nobody uses charcoal or firewood again. Now, I think that's it.
Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and absolutely fascinating to learn about your background and your experience and the very important work that you're doing with the women today. So thank you very much for your time and for your hard work.
A sincere thank you to Grace for sharing a little bit about her experiences, both as a refugee living at the Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, and about her work with her organization, Root of Generations in South Sudan, and for sharing that beautiful vision that she has, where people are able to live healthy lives, and everyone that wants to have access to a solar cooker in order to cook their foods with solar cooking technology is able to get one. And so that's what we're doing at Solar Cookers International. We're looking to find ways to help make that vision a reality. So thank you again to Grace for sharing those comments, and thank you to Rosen as well for the interview. It was really insightful and a really interesting opportunity to hear a little bit from Grace. So I'll now take on the baton and move on to our next section. Rosen ran through, Sarah Rosen ran through the capacity building component of SCI's work, and so now I have the opportunity to take that capacity building and talk a little bit about the specific example of SCI's collaboration with our local partners in Kenya to help provide access to solar cooking devices at the Kakuma refugee camp in northern Kenya, where Grace had previously lived. So I had the opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, to travel to Kenya last year in September, and was able to attend Africa Climate Week conference in Nairobi. And then after the conference ended in the big city, I joined our local partners in Kenya to travel up to Turkana County in northern Kenya, which is where Kakuma refugee camp is located. This is a common cooking scene that one would find in the Kakuma refugee camp. Here's a woman washing some dishes while a pot is heating over an open fire. There's a child inside. Often women are responsible for cooking and looking after children. So not only is the woman in the picture breathing in smoke, but her child is also breathing in smoke as well. If you go to the next slide, meanwhile outside there is an abundance of freely available sunlight. As Grace mentioned in her comments, and Miss Climate Kenya, Dorcas mentioned as well, there's an abundance of sunshine, freely available, renewable energy in a place like Kenya. That sunlight comes for most of the year, and if there's a way to take advantage of that sunlight and use it to cook food, then that would be a great opportunity to reduce the reliance on these other fuels that people are currently using, wood, charcoal, and other fuel sources that create a lot of indoor air pollution, create a lot of greenhouse gas emissions from the point of use. So based on some of that data that we were talking about, families are using an average of about 100 kilograms of charcoal or 360 kilograms of firewood per month, and are spending approximately, or a minimum of 3,000 Kenyan shillings, or about $23 US on cooking fuel. So as a refugee with limited resources, this is a significant portion of your household budget on a monthly basis. So if you go to the next slide, we can take a look at the map of Kenya. As you can see, there's a lot of sunlight in many parts of the country. And you can see up in the top left in the northwest region, there's a small dot that shows where Kakuma is located. In the orange, red, the darker orange and red colors are where you get higher rates of solar irradiation or direct sunlight. So it's a great location for solar cooking to really take hold. And an update on our program in Kenya. For the 2023 cycle, last year, there were 60 standard-sized U-log box cookers that were manufactured in Kenya by Kenyan workers using materials available in Kenya, and then distributed up to Kakuma for families to use there. One of the things that Solar Cookers International emphasizes or prioritizes is working with local collaborators and enabling local manufacturing whenever possible to help allow for some income generation opportunities for people in that country, and to reduce costs and shipment as well. Some of the other best practices that we look at when we're building or thinking about our projects and our programs includes inclusive design, and including refugee women as solar cooking champions as trainers, which I'll touch on a little bit more in a moment. And then, as we mentioned earlier during Sarah Rosen's discussion on monitoring and evaluation, we also follow up, have monitoring and evaluation tools that we utilize. And as Justin mentioned, we also emphasize the importance of product testing as well, both the solar cooking power and the solar cooking efficiency as well. So we can jump to the next slide. As I mentioned, local manufacturing is a point of emphasis for Solar Cookers International. So here are a couple photos from this last cycle. Last year, there were 60 box ovens that were manufactured in Kenya at the Kini Institute in Chuka. These are U-log solar ovens that are, there is an open source design available on the Solar Cooking Wiki. So there's design plans available there that people can look at and can even slightly modify depending on the local circumstances. It includes materials that are needed and measurements and those kinds of things that allow for local production to take place. And so we're thankful to designers that have made those open source design plans available for others around the world to be able to take that design and implement it locally. We do have as you can see in the photo, each box oven is marked with a identification number and a phone number that users are able to call if they have any issues or problems in the course of their cooking activities. Next slide, please. In the monitoring and evaluation and data collection component, we do something called the quick needs assessment, which is important to assess the needs and desire for solar cooking, both at the individual and community level. This is a critical step and helps to formulate an appropriate intervention with the communities that we're looking to work with. So for the example that I've mentioned, last year there were 120 individual households that took part in the quick needs assessment. So we have more than the number of box ovens that we're expecting to distribute. And that gives us an opportunity to look through and identify households that are interested and motivated to use the box oven that will be part of the program. And so this includes both the Kakuma refugee camp and the adjacent Kalabeye settlement, which is just up the road from Kakuma. These photos here on this slide are some of the examples of the cooking methods that were in place before receiving box oven cookers. So next slide, please. Here's a couple photos from the training component of the program that we've been running with our local collaborators. So pictures here show a woman providing a lecture, an overview of solar cooking. And on the right, we have the box oven open, and families that will be participating in the program are able to look closely and see. The woman in this photo wearing the orange dress is a solar cooking champion who is now one of the lead trainers. She was previously a participant, and so she received a box oven in one of the previous cycles and found that it was so useful and valuable for her that she wanted to help with the training for future groups of recipients. And so this training of the trainer model, this opportunity to take someone that has already been using a solar cooker is a great way to inform new users about the benefits of using a solar cooker. And we'll come back to the woman here who's pictured has given Solar Cookers International permission to use her name, and she was one of the families that was interviewed during my trip to Kakuma last year. And so we'll be seeing from her in the video that we'll be showing at the end of the presentation in just a few more moments. So we'll go to the next slide. We've heard, hopefully the slides are advancing for the majority of the audience. If there is an issue, it might it might be useful to quickly leave the webinar and then rejoin if the slides aren't advancing. They look like they're advancing for the majority of us, but we've had a few comments. So for our apologies for anybody that's having any technical difficulties, but hopefully the majority of our attendees are able to see the slides as we move forward. In this slide, we're seeing some of the families painting pots black, matte black. This increases the efficiency of the solar cookers. The black color absorbs the heat, the light and heat more efficiently for those users. And so that's part of that training program. If you go to the next slide, the distribution process includes taking down information of each of the users. And it also is when we do that baseline survey that we mentioned for the adoption and impact survey. We take a baseline survey that gives us information about cooking practices, fuel usage, and those kinds of data points. And then once families have been using those box ovens for several months, we go out and do a second survey with our local collaborators, do a second survey that gives us an idea of what kind of impact those families are seeing. So we'll jump to the next slide, please. Follow-up includes taking photos of the family once the box oven has been distributed, and then in their household once it's arrived and they've been using it. Here's just one example of from left to right. We have the traditional cooking method over an open fire, receiving the box oven, now having the box oven in their own home compound at the Kakuma refugee camp, and then one of the foods that has been cooked within the box oven. The next slide, please. Foods that work well for a box oven are things like rice, beans, potatoes, foods that take a long time to simmer. Box ovens are great for passive cooking, where you put your food into a pot, put the box oven out into direct sunlight, and you can leave it out for an extended period. You can go do other activities, and then you come back to eat your food later in the day once it's fully cooked. How quickly it takes to cook that food depends on how much direct sunlight you have. So if it's a partially cloudy day, it may take a little bit longer. And it also depends on the type of food that you're cooking as well. It does take it's sort of like using a slow cooker in some ways. So you put it out in the sun and the food will heat up, the box oven will heat up, and will simmer until the food is cooked appropriately. One of the things that we point out, as we mentioned, training is critical because it's important for users to understand how to get the best results from their box ovens in order to ensure that they continue to use them beyond just that first week or month. So we can go to the next slide. As mentioned, the Adoption and Impact Survey gives us valuable information about what is working and what isn't, and allows us to work with our collaborators and local families to make sure that we are improving on our programs. Some of the impact that we've been seeing, and this was told to us by surveys, and then also told to me directly by families when I was in Kakuma last year. Families of an average of around 7 people are previously spending around that $23 US or 3,000 Kenyan shillings on cooking fuel before having the solar cooker. After receiving the solar cooker, they're saving an average of about $5.50 US dollars, or about 700 Kenyan shillings on cooking fuel. So this is a significant amount of money for refugee families that equates to about 70 US dollars over the course of an entire year. There's a lot more work to do. There's many more families in Kakuma that have expressed interest. And one of the profound things that I kept hearing when we were talking to families that are using box ovens is they want an expansion or an increase in the number of box ovens that are made available, because they want their neighbors to also have access to this kind of technology, because they've been seeing that impact in their own family. So next slide. As I mentioned, I had the opportunity to travel to Kakuma. Here's a couple pictures, sort of behind the scenes pictures of what it was like to take some video, to conduct some interviews with some of the families that are using box ovens. And we're very thankful to Tea Leaves for their collaboration. They've worked with us to take some of the original video that was shot last year and edit it together into a video that we can share with solar cooking enthusiasts around the world. And so we're thrilled to have a world premiere today of a short promotional video about what kind of impact solar cooking is having on families at the Kakuma refugee camp. So if we go to the next slide, I believe we will have a video to share with everyone.
Wanga bene ken ane ken bene wanga ken no pe ko me wang ki to ko bira yana lo tini par bene no ki cham ma bene ro biro ken yana tien ara chen ki kin no ti gi pe ko mi kore. This solar help us very much. One sack for charcoal, I can use it almost two months.
Thank you so much to Tea Leaves for that really powerful video, and thank you to everybody for sharing their voices. And really, I just want to say a very special thank you to all of our supporters, because we cannot do this important life-saving work without our supporters. So really, we encourage you to join the movement. People have been asking how to get involved. So if we go to the next slide, supporting and donating to solar cookers is a really powerful way to make sure that your voice is heard in terms of working to make solar cooking accessible to the billions of people around the world still cooking over open fires. There's also so many other ways. We've mentioned so many resources that we provide for free to build capacity and strengthen knowledge within and beyond the solar cooking sector, connecting with our collaborators, joining the SCI Association, signing up for more information, including solar cooking in your work, and encouraging PEP testing of solar cookers. And of course, also we do provide consultancy services as well. So that could be options for tailored project design and support, really helping communities and people find what solutions could work best for them within the solar cooking sector. But I did want to maybe share 1 minute in case Ms. Climate Kenya wants to say anything being here live. We only have about one minute if you want to say anything and unmute yourself. But we did have a very, very powerful video message. So I know there's been lots of questions coming in, and we've been doing our best to answer them as we can through the typed Q&A, and we'll follow up with need be as focused as we can and as time allows as well. So, but with that, we are at time. So I want to say a very genuine thank you to all of our panelists, and a very genuine thank you to all of you for supporting and joining. And I see Ms. Climate Kenya has your hand raised. Did you want to say anything? One last chance, maybe?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been, of course, a great time we've shared, and I really appreciate. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for putting this together. And we really appreciate and looking forward to adapting some of the strategies on solar cookers here in Kenya, where I come from. Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for everyone who also took their time to be part of this meeting. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, let's continue to work together to support women and the environment through solar cooking. All right, thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are in the world, and thank you so much.